On December 5, 2025, the streaming wars didn't just end, they were won. In a move that has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and Wall Street, Netflix, the company that started it all by mailing DVDs, has just pulled off one of the biggest corporate takeovers in media history. For a staggering $82.7 billion, Netflix has acquired the entertainment assets of Warner Bros. Discovery. This isn't just another merger. Netflix has just bought a century of Hollywood history. They now own the legendary Warner Bros. Film and television studio, the prestige and critical acclaim of HBO, and the entire universe of superheroes and villains from DC Comics. This is the story of the lightning-fast, high-stakes bidding war that just reshaped the future of entertainment. It's the story of how Netflix, after years of spending billions to create its own content, decided it was easier to just buy the competition. This is the endgame. The deal, announced on a quiet Friday morning, is almost too massive to comprehend. Netflix will pay $72 billion in equity and assume over $10 billion in debt to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery's studio and streaming assets. This is more than the entire GDP of some countries. So what did Netflix just buy? It's not just a streaming service. They bought the crown jewels of American culture. First, the studio. They got the Warner Bros. Film and Television Studio, a 100-year-old factory of dreams, responsible for some of the most iconic movies and shows ever made. This gives them a massive library of proven hits and, more importantly, the infrastructure to produce blockbuster films and television series on a global scale. Second, the prestige. They get HBO. For decades, HBO has been the undisputed king of quality television. "It's not TV, it's HBO" wasn't just a slogan, it was a promise of excellence. Netflix, often criticized for prioritizing quantity over quality, has just bought the most respected brand in television history. Third, the superheroes. And perhaps most importantly, they get DC Comics. For years, Netflix has watched its biggest rival, Disney, dominate the box office with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, Netflix owns the other half of the comic book world. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the Joker, an entire universe of globally recognized characters is now under their control. This deal is a fundamental shift in strategy. For years, Netflix's mantra was build. They spent over $17 billion a year creating their own original content. With this deal, they have declared that it's now time to buy. And they didn't just buy a house, they bought the entire neighborhood. This historic deal didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the result of a frantic, behind-the-scenes bidding war that played out over just 72 hours. For months, Warner Bros. Discovery had been struggling under a mountain of debt, a consequence of its own messy merger just a few years prior. Wall Street knew a sale was inevitable. The question was, who would buy it? The first bidder was Comcast. The parent company of Universal Pictures and the Peacock streaming service made an initial offer. They wanted Warner Bros. To create a media titan that could truly compete with Disney. Then came Paramount. Paramount, itself in the midst of its own merger talks with Skydance, saw a chance to combine its assets with Warner Bros. To create a legacy media powerhouse. But while the old media giants were strategizing, Netflix was preparing for a knockout blow. Led by CEO Ted Sarandos, Netflix came in with an offer that stunned the industry. They weren't just offering cash, they were offering a massive premium and the power of their stock, which has been one of the best performing assets of the last decade. They weren't just trying to win, they were trying to end the auction before it truly began. We were playing checkers and Netflix was playing chess. They didn't just want to buy Warner Bros., they wanted to send a message to the rest of us that the game is over. For the board of Warner Bros. Discovery, the choice was clear. A deal with Comcast or Paramount would have faced years of regulatory scrutiny. A deal with Netflix, while still complex, was cleaner and offered a much higher price for their shareholders. In less than 3 days, the biggest deal in modern media history was done. So why did Netflix, a company that has always prided itself on being a disruptive tech company, suddenly decide to become a 100-year-old Hollywood studio? The answer is simple. The streaming wars are over, and the next phase is about total domination. Reason number 1. Owning the intellectual property, IP. Netflix's biggest weakness has always been its reliance on licensed content. When shows like Friends and The Office left the platform, it left a huge hole. By buying Warner Brothers, they now own the IP outright. They will never have to pay to license Game of Thrones or the Harry Potter movies again. They are theirs forever. Reason number 2. The franchise machine. Disney's success is built on the back of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Netflix has been desperately trying to build its own franchises with mixed success. Now they don't have to. They own DC. They can now build a cohesive, interconnected universe with Batman, Superman, and the Justice League that can finally compete with Marvel on a global scale. Reason number 3. Eliminating the competition. For years, Netflix's biggest rival for awards and critical acclaim has been HBO. Every year at the Emmys, it was a battle between the Netflix juggernaut and the HBO prestige machine. Netflix just solved that problem by buying the other team. They have neutralized their most potent competitor. So, what does the biggest media deal in history mean for you, the person watching this at home? In the short term, it means your HBO Max subscription will likely be folded into Netflix. Get ready for a new, more expensive subscription tier, Netflix with HBO. The age of a dozen different streaming apps may be ending, replaced by a few, massive, all-encompassing services. This is the biggest fear for many viewers. Will Netflix, a company famous for its data-driven, content-by-the-yard approach, preserve the creative culture of HBO? Or will the home of The Sopranos and Succession start producing more generic, algorithm-friendly content to feed the Netflix machine? The soul of prestige television hangs in the balance. The streaming wars are over, but the war of the titans has just begun. The future of entertainment will now be a head-to-head battle between two giants. Netflix, armed with Warner Brothers and DC, and Disney, armed with Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar. Everyone else is now a distant third. Netflix's $83 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers is more than just a business deal. It's a statement. It's the final chapter in the story of a tech company's hostile takeover of Hollywood. Netflix is no longer just in the business of streaming content. It is now in the business of owning culture. The long-term consequences are unknown, but one thing is certain. The shows you watch, the movies you love, and the stories you share will never be the same.